So, very good morning, guys. All of you maybe are doing good. I hope all of you are taking good care of yourself. So, let us start today's session. As you know, we are into our third session of business laws today, right? And yesterday we have started with the basics of law. So, let us quickly recall the basics of law before we proceed with our new topics or new things. Okay. Yeah. So if you recall, we have talked about why this background picture, right? The background picture indicates the face-to-face classes, which are empty now, and virtually we are learning, right? Then, apart from this, we have talked about syllabus as well yesterday, isn't it? We have talked about syllabus, which is basics of law, obviously. Maybe directly it is not there, but indirectly everywhere it is applicable. But directly what is there in our syllabus is the 5 topics: the Indian Contract Act 1872. Then we said plus one more topic, Sale of Goods Act. Okay, this one plus one, and then plus 3 more topics, which is Indian Partnership Act, then LLP Act, and also we have got Companies Act in our syllabus, right? Coming to Indian Contract Act, we said fully we don't have in our syllabus. Same way I've told you, even Companies Act we don't have fully in our syllabus, if you remember, correct? So we have only selected provisions for for CA Foundation when it comes to Indian Contract Act and Companies Act. Acha, if you can recall, we said Companies Act, the other provisions you'll be reading in CA Inter as well as in CA Final. I hope you remember. Whereas when I talk about Indian Contract Act, right, the other provisions which we are not going to read now, we will be reading in CA Inter. Correct. Then, if you remember, I've told you why we have grouped these Indian Partnership, LLP, Companies Act into one. If you remember, all these 3 indicates laws relating to forms of business, correct? Then, I've also told you there is no Income Tax Act in our syllabus, right? There is no Income Tax Act in our syllabus. Reason? First, they want you to understand the basics relating to forms of businesses, the laws relating to the forms of businesses, the fundamental thing with which the business starts, that is contract. So they want you to understand the law relating to contract, and then maybe one more law relating to some special contract, that is nothing but the contract relating to sale of goods. They say first understand these, and then maybe when you go to CA Inter level, when you are matured enough, when you can understand things better, that is the time where you will be reading laws like income tax as well as GST. Not now, correct? Then, if you remember, we have set our agenda for basics of law. We started with meaning of law. Yes, guys. So if you can recall meaning of law, we said it's rules and regulations for a relationship in a particular area, domain, jurisdiction, set up by whom? Proper authority, right? Then we said if we know the meaning of law with these 4 elements, we said we can even make meaning of business law. We can give the meaning of business law. So it is nothing but rules and regulations for a business relationship in a particular domain again, and set by proper authority, correct? So only thing which I have changed is business relationship, I have changed it to business relationship, correct? Then we also talked about business law for CA aspirants, that is you guys, right? You people. So for you, rules and regulations for a business relationship in India, right? Because you have in your syllabus mainly the laws relating to or applicable to India. So set up by whom? Proper authority, which is nothing but Parliament. Then we said sometimes maybe if required, you might read some laws relating to state, which will be of course made by the state legislature. So that's where we have mentioned that as well. Correct? Then talking about the objective of law, if you can recall the objective of law, right? What is it? We said socio-economic justice. Economic justice meaning it is about the monetary aspect, right? Monetary justice. And social justice meaning non-monetary, right? Simply speaking, we said removing those imbalances, bringing that discipline, avoiding chaos, bringing smoothness, right? Is the objective of any law. Is this pertaining to a particular law? Guys, I want you to answer. Now, I want you to answer specifically. Is this objective which I have written here, is it relating to a particular law or is it in general? Is it in general? Come on, please mention. Very good. Namit says it is not relating to a particular law. It is in general. Very good, Dimple. Yes, all of you are right. So it's relating to all laws in general. It is not specifically for a particular law. So when will we read the objective of a particular law? Obviously, when we go to that particular law. I request all of you to mute in case by any chance you're unmuted. Please, I request you to mute yourself. Thank you so much. Yeah. Then talking about types of laws, we have also discussed the different types of laws. We said business laws is the one which we have in our syllabus. And again, if you remember, I have told you that all the business laws are not there in your syllabus, isn't it? Selected ones are there.
Yeah.
Then we also have fiscal laws. Yeah. So we have talked about even the other type of laws like fiscal laws. What is fiscal law? I want you to answer now. Fiscal laws meaning what? What is a fiscal law? Come on, in short, please quickly type. Quickly give the answer in the chat box. What is a fiscal law? Very good. Dealing with exchequer. Harshal, it is not two words, beta. EXCHEQ goes continuously, okay? It's not separately. Yeah, deals with revenue of the government. Correct. All of you are right. Then, so we took examples as well. We said like Income Tax Act or maybe the law relating to GST or the stamp duty is nothing but a fiscal law. Then economic laws we have talked about. We said also there can be civil laws, criminal laws, cyber laws, environmental laws, isn't it? Like that, maybe there can be n number of laws. And that's where we have written etc. Right? That means this list is inclusive. The list which is there in front of us is inclusive and not exhaustive. Then talking about the sources of law, if you can recall, we said broadly there are three sources for any law. Number one is tradition, customs, or maybe you can say usages, rituals, or the routine, right? Day-to-day life of ours, the society. Then second one we said is nothing but the case laws, that is the court decisions. When we say decisions, we are not just talking about court. As you know, we're talking about even quasi-judicial bodies. I hope you remember what is a quasi-judicial body. Please answer. I want your answer for quasi-judicial body. Come on. What is quasi-judicial body? Because we are saying will be the source for any law can be not just the decision given by judicial body, but also quasi-judicial body. So can you just help me? Can you just recall what is quasi-judicial body? Yeah, very good. It is established, it is formed by government, but the power comes from where? Law, not constitution. If the power is given by constitution, then it is called as a judicial body. Very good. Yes, all of you are right. Correct, Ajit. Good. Then the third source of law we said is parliament, the expert committees, the authority. They might also visualize the future and then might bring law for a particular thing. So that way we have broadly three sources for law. Which law? Any law. Correct. Again, this is in general. Then we have also talked about features of law, if you remember. But we said this is not all the features. This is just some important features. So what are those features? Number one, which we have written is mandatory for those whom it is applicable. Correct? For those whom it is applicable. Meaning what? It may be said that law is mandatory. Okay. But the thing is, first of all, that law should apply to you. If you are running a form of business, which is company form of business, then do you think Indian Partnership Act will be applicable? No. Obviously, what will apply is Companies Act. So please understand that when we say mandatory for those whom it is applicable. Then coming to the next feature, flexibility. Flexibility in the sense what? Law may change, right? That is amendments. And flexibility means what? Another thing, that law can have exceptions. Law can be flexible. Law is not rigid, right? When required in public interest, like we were discussing yesterday, maybe a police van jumping a signal, maybe a fire extinguishing van, or maybe if you talk about something relating to public interest, there can be certain exceptions. Then we also said law should be uniform. It should be applied in the same manner for one and all. Then we also said law should be followed in true letter and spirit, right? What do you mean by following true letter and spirit? Can you just answer this? Yeah, I'll wait for your answer, please. Compliance in true letter and spirit. Can you, in short, help me understand what is this compliance in true letter and spirit? Compliance in true letter and spirit. Very good. Following law with true practice. Following law in the right manner. Very, very good. Yeah, Supraja says meeting the objective of law. Wonderful. Yes, you're absolutely correct. Right? That you should follow law in such a manner that the objective of the law is met. Right? It should make sense. Correct. It should be done in the right manner, not just for the sake of it. That is where compliance of law in true letter and spirit. Okay. Then we discussed another feature called as ignorance of law is not an excuse. So if someone is ignorant about any particular law, it is his problem, right? Law will not take it as an excuse. But my dear friends, please note, certain times, sometimes, very few times, you will find there can be exception to this. Okay, when we read some laws, you may find that there is some exception to this. See, right now we're discussing in general, so I've written that. But when we go to specific law, certain times, I'm not saying every time, maybe there is a possibility that we may find some exception to it. Then we also said law should be written in a special way. Law should be, or should I say that law is written in a special way? Law is written in a special way. And that is where we said that rules of interpretation would help us understand law properly, isn't it? So that's where written in special way and rules of interpretation. Then etc. I've written because as I've told you, these are just important features. So till here we have discussed yesterday. Now we have to continue further and talk about procedure for enacting a law, right? How to make law. Is there any manner? Is there any procedure? Are there any formalities which are required to be done to make a law, right? That is our next topic. So I believe you're having your notebook in front of you and you have already started noting down, and in case not, because we were doing recap, now start noting down, put today's date, right? Put today's date, maintain that habit of writing the date, okay? And then give the heading procedure for enactment of law, okay? Procedure for enactment. Enactment means what? Making a law. So give that heading, okay? Yeah, but before that, you just tell me, I'll give you one example, then I'll go to that procedure for enactment, okay? I'm not into procedure for enactment as of now. I'm just into features. I just got some, example in my mind. So I just want to convey it and you tell me, okay? You give me the answer once I raise the question. Let us say Supraja is on a traffic signal. Let us say Supraja is on a traffic signal, meaning she is on a crossroad where there's a signal and she has to go straight. She has to go straight, but the signal is red. Signal is red. So what she does is she finds that there is a free left allowed. There's a free left allowed. So she takes that left turn and then takes the U-turn and then takes again left. She has to go straight, right? So what she does is she takes left first, then U-turn and then goes straight. Do you think that Supraja has complied with the traffic law? Come on, my dear friends. Namit says no. Shreya also says no. Same way other students, other friends of ours are also saying no. Very, very, very good, beta. All of you are doing a wonderful job. All of you are correct here. This is not compliance of law, right? Because if you understand the intention of law says if you have to go straight, right, and the signal is red, then you have to stop. Only when the signal turns green, that is where Supraja is supposed to go. Now, few of you, or maybe someone might think like this, but sir, you said there's a free left turn. Yes, Baba, there is a free left turn, but for whom? Those who have to go left. It is not that they are saying that those who have to go straight also should go this way, no? So please understand, if someone does like that, that means he is going to defeat the objective of law. And imagine if everyone start doing like this, like Supraja is doing, okay? Crossroad means 4 sides, 4, right? So in case seeing Supraja, the other 2 sides persons whose signal is red also does this. Imagine she is doing it, her signal is red. Same way here, let's say Rohan is doing the same, who's here. And then from the other side, Shruti is doing this. Okay, Shruti Bajaj is also doing the same. 3 sides the signal is red and they are doing the same. That means they have to go straight, but they're taking left, U-turn and then left. And the 4th side, whose signal, let's say Sumed, okay, let's say Sumed, whose signal is green. What do you think he will do? He has to go straight. His signal is his signal is green as well. Now, do you think he'll be able to go? No, because just imagine 3 sides. What is happening is people taking left, U-turn and all. It will lead to chaos. Yeah, Harsha is saying maybe even accident can take place. So that is not right. Just because there is a free left turn, it doesn't mean that you take left and then U-turn and left to go straight. Yes, my dear friends. So I believe all of you have understood. We have taken some other example as well yesterday, but I just wanted to check whether you are able to apply the understanding. As I've told you, there are 3 objectives. Always will keep in mind. Number 1, understanding. Correct. Now, please mention number 2. Come on, guys. Please mention what is number 2. What is the objective after understanding? Very good. Application. Application. Correct. And then number 3 is presentation. Number 3 is what? Presentation, isn't it? Acha, which presentation we said we should focus on? Which presentation? Yeah, presentation, but which one? Yeah, oral as well as written, right? So I said I'll be giving you some do's and don'ts with respect to presentation. When we start off with the topic, when we are discussing something, it is also important to understand how to present things so that we can impress the other person. And of course, in the examination, we should be able to score maximum marks possible, right? Great. Chalo. So let's go ahead and talk about procedure for enactment. We have already written the heading. So now, guys, why? First of all, why should there be a procedure? Obviously, the reason is if there is no procedure, if there is no specific manner, then it will lead to what? All confusion, right? Everyone would do what they want to. Whatever way Modi government wants to form the law, they will form. Same way, whatever the other previous governments had to follow, they will follow on their own. It will all lead to confusion. It's not a good situation at all. So that's where, my dear friends, please understand there should be a proper manner, proper procedure. And that's where we are discussing it. Okay. So now, this law will be proposed by whom? Obviously, government, right? The respective government. Okay. If you're talking about state, then state government. And if we are talking about India, then the central government will propose. Okay. When they propose, please understand, it is not law. It is a bill. It can be a budget. It can be an ordinance. Okay. So initially what comes up is a bill, a budget, an ordinance. Okay. So once that bill is drafted, acha, who will draft it? I said government. Okay. If you are talking about India, then it is central government. Okay. They will be drafting it. Correct. That means the expert committee who is appointed by that government will be drafting that bill. Okay. Bill is drafted. Right. Then what? Directly will we say it is law? No. Then what? Then it has to be taken to parliament. Yes, but before that, it has to be taken to the cabinet. It has to be taken to the cabinet for what? Obviously, for their inputs as well. And then taken to the parliament. For what purpose? For the purpose of discussion. First of all, discussion has to happen, right? Debate has to happen. And once the discussion and debate is over, then maybe with some changes, it may be passed by the parliament. And once it is passed by the parliament, then can we say it is law? Come on, answer. Once it is passed by the parliament, can we say it is law? Can we say it is an act? No. Oh, wonderful. Most of you are giving the right answer. Right. Good. So once it is passed by the parliament, then it will be taken to the president. Okay, the president has to also give his assent. What do you mean by assent? Acceptance. Okay, A-S-S-E-N-T, assent. So president has to give the assent. I repeat, A-S-S-E-N-T, assent, acceptance. Okay, so once the president gives the acceptance, once the president gives the assent, then we can say, yes, it becomes a law. So once law is made, now what would they do? Obviously, they will implement that law, right? They're making the law not just for the sake of it. They're not making the law to register their name in Guinness Book of World Record. They're making the law to implement the same. Now question comes that will they implement the whole of the law together, or are they going to implement in parts? It all depends. I cannot say every time it will be implemented as a whole, or I cannot say every time it will be implemented in parts. It depends on different factors. So my dear friends, please understand, maybe in parts or maybe as a whole, they will implement the law. Then another question comes up, sir, when are they going to implement that law? Today, if the president has given the assent, is it that today itself it's going to be implemented? Is it so? Or are they going to give some time and going to implement it later? Or is it possible that from a back date they're going to implement the law? What is going to be the date of implementation? And my dear friends, again it depends on certain factors. And there are three possibilities as I just now discussed. That number one, immediate. Number two, maybe from a future date. Number three, maybe from a back date. That means immediate, prospective, or retrospective is also possible. Okay, so let's just check once. What did we talk about? So I'm repeating, and you know, once you understand things, you need to note down. Don't wait for me to turn the slide. As per your understanding, you may write. And when I turn the slide for you, what would you do? You would just compare and see whether you have done any mistake. If yes, then rectify it. And if no mistake, but there is a chance of improvisation, please improvise. Okay, guys? Yeah. So let's check the procedure for enactment. A bill, or maybe a draft, or maybe we can call it as letter, budget, ordinance, drafted by the respective ministry, the government, right? Respective government, respective ministry, who will be taking the help of expert committees in drafting it. Then approved by the cabinet. So cabinet will give its inputs, and then taken to the parliament for discussion. So discussed and approved by the parliament with or without modification. Maybe if they are okay with that particular bill, then they may not propose any changes. But if they are not okay, then they may propose some changes as well. Then once parliament approves it, it is taken to the president, and then that bill becomes a law. Or maybe, as I've told you yesterday, that it can be also called as a statute or maybe an act. And once that act is made, once that law is made, it has to be implemented. And that's where implementation of law, in which manner? Maybe phased manner, that means in parts they may implement, or at one go, that means as a whole they might implement. From which date? So as we said, it can be immediate, it can be prospective, it can be retrospective. What is prospective? So we said future date. What is retrospective? So we said backdated. It is possible. Okay, this is what is the procedure. Retrospective means from a back date. They may say we are bringing law today, but then this law, we are making law today, but it will be implemented from a previous date. Okay, let's see. Now, if I talk about Income Tax Act, for your information, as of today, agricultural income is not taxed. There is an exemption on agricultural income. Okay, but I'm just taking a hypothetical scenario. Okay, but let's say tomorrow this Modi government comes up with an amendment in the Income Tax Act and says we are going to impose tax on agricultural income also. Let's say they say we will impose tax on agricultural income also, and that too not from today. They say we are going to implement this from last 2 years. Okay, 2 years back they've given that date. So that means last 2 years income also will be taxed now. So this is nothing but retrospective implementation of law from a back date. But please understand, this is not done in many cases. This is done in very, very few cases. Remote chances there, because if they come up with retrospective implementation, people may not trust the government. Don't you think that farmer who earned 2 years back, or in the last 2 years, whatever he had earned or whatever planning he has done, was based on the fact that Income Tax Act gives an exemption to the agricultural income? And all of a sudden government says no, we are going to tax it, that too from last 2 years. Then it would definitely be not right. the farmer may be that, I mean, may get pinched and he may say, what nonsense, my decision making has gone haywire. So please understand, only in public interest and when there is no option left, that is where there is a possibility that they may implement any law retrospectively, not generally. Okay, I hope you have understood. I hope you have understood. Okay. Now someone is saying point number 6. Yeah, Sahil, Natasha. Yeah, I'll repeat. But first, please tell me, okay, I'll ask questions now. Once, see, we have seen the procedure now. Maybe you have not understood something. Okay, no problem. But I'm asking you certain questions. In those questions, maybe I'll again explain you this concept and then you'll understand. Still not, then you can raise your doubt. Okay. So let's go one by one. I'm asking you questions now. Huh? The same procedure I'm following yesterday, as I've told you. Once you understand something, then application. Here maybe your complete understanding is not there, but still I'm going into application because I know you can understand it through that means as well. So first thing, drafted by respective ministry. Drafted by respective ministry. Why do you think I've written this? I could have written simply respective government. Respective government, that is state government or maybe central government. But is there any specific reason for writing respective ministry? Yes, my dear friends, if you understand, if I am talking about a finance budget, okay, government, central government will get it. Okay, we'll talk about only India because in our syllabus we have laws relating to India. Let's forget about state law. Okay, so when I'm talking about, let's say, finance budget for the whole of the country, okay, so finance budget will be by whom? Narendra Modi, the PM? No, obviously the finance ministry. The government has divided itself into certain ministries. They have allocated certain portfolios so that the functioning becomes smooth. It's not possible that Narendra Modi looks into everything. So he's overall in charge, but then there are certain portfolios, certain ministries which are handled by the respective ministers. So please understand, if I'm talking about a finance bill, it will be brought in by Modi government, but who will be there under that Modi government, who will be presenting it or preparing it? It will be finance minister, finance ministry. Same way if I'm talking about some railway bill, okay, law relating to some railways, then it will be brought in by railway minister. So that is where, if you understand, I have written drafted by respective ministry. Okay, next question. Next question. Who makes law? Who makes law? Come on. Yes, my dear students, please. Who makes law is my next question. If someone is asking you this question, who makes law? Oh, at least Priyanka has given the right answer. Same way Hirtesh has given the right answer. Yeah, Harshil, you're right. We can say legislature, but then better to say parliament because we're talking about country. No doubt, we can use synonymously, but better to use the term parliament. Yes. If you remember, earlier also I've told you it is parliament who makes law. Yeah. Who is helping in making that law? Government, no doubt about that. The government is proposing the law. Okay. But then ultimately, who makes this law? The parliament, the members of parliament. Okay. Okay, fine. Now my next question. Why is it that parliament making law? Why is it that? My next question is, why is that parliament making law? Please keep yourself mute. If someone has unmuted themselves, please. Harsha, please mute yourself, beta. Yeah. No, I am not talking about why is law made. Guys, please understand my question properly. I am saying, why is it that parliament making a law? See, we said who will make law? So you said parliament, right? Most of you gave the right answer. Now, why is it that parliament making law? Okay, someone says legislature is the law making body. Very good. Yes. See, constitution has given the right to the parliament. There are different articles in the constitution. So article number 245 has given the power to the parliament to make the laws relating to the country. Okay, there's article 245, 246 talks about certain list. We'll discuss that when required. As of now, you can just simply understand constitution has given the power to the parliament to make law, and that's where they're making it. But now the question comes, sir, why is it that constitution has given the power to parliament and not to anyone else? Mr. Lalu Prasad Yadav, do you think is not competent to make a law? Do you think Mr. Narendra Modi is not competent to make a law? So the answer is, see, law is made for society. Law is made for people. So don't you think it is the people only, because we're talking about democracy. So when we talk about democracy, when you're talking about people, don't you think the people themselves should be making law? Yes. But imagine 135 crores of population, okay, 135 crores of people coming together to make a law. Do you think it is possible, going to be possible? No. So that's where the representatives of those people, the representatives of the public are going to make the law. And where are the representatives of the public? Where are the representatives of the public? What is the adda of the representative of the public? Parliament, correct? The adda of the representatives of public is parliament. So please understand, that is where constitution gives the power to whom? The parliament. So basically, constitution is saying, let the people, let the representatives of people only make the law. Okay, but no doubt, this is subject to the approval of whom? President. Once parliament approves it, we said we are not going to call it as law. President has to sign, because it has to get that authenticity, that has to get validity. Okay, and that will be done only when president signs it. Okay, so now my next question, why is it that president has to sign? I hope all of you are able to follow me. Say yes if you're able to follow me, or say following, sir. Okay, great. So now answer my next question. What is my next question? Why is it that president has to sign? President has to give the assent. Why not Sonia Gandhi ji? Why not Amit Shah should be signing it? Why? Very good. Divya said he's the first citizen of the country. Right, he or she, yeah, because we had even a female president. So first citizen of the country. See, law is made for the citizens, for the public, for the people. So we cannot get the signature from each and every person among the public. So that's where we said at least one of the person, that is the first citizen of this country, should be signing it. Okay, yeah. See, constitution is given right, no doubt about that. But then my question was, why is it that constitution has given that sort of right? Isn't it? That is the way you have to think. Okay, someone has said, but why did that someone said? Someone has enabled, someone has empowered. Okay, but why they have empowered them only or him only? That is my question. So I hope you have followed now. President, being the first citizen, has to sign, because it is law for the citizens, law for the society, and you can't expect everyone among the society to sign it. So that's why we're expecting first citizen to sign. Okay, great. Then comes my next question. Generally, do you think they will implement law in phased manner or at one go? Generally. Okay, I am not talking about always. Okay, Sumit says one go. Generally, it can be one go. That is law as a whole, phased. Okay. See, all of you are right. I'll not say anyone is wrong here, because it all depends upon the length of the law, the facts, the circumstances of the law. Based on that, they'll have to decide whether it should be in a phased manner or one go. If, let's say, the length of law is huge, right? The impact it will create is something which is really difficult to understand. Then they might go for phased manner. But when they know the law is smaller, or maybe the approach itself which they are going to follow by way of new law is totally different than the existing one, then better to implement that at one go. Okay, law is smaller, that means the volume is not that great. It's possible that it might go in a Yeah, as a whole as well. So kindly understand, when the law is bigger, okay, when the approach itself is approach is same, then it is possible that they may go in phased manner. Or sometime when they don't know how the people will react and they want to just understand, that is also the possibility that they might go in a phased manner. Correct. And then when will they go for at one go as a whole? Law is small, okay, or the approach itself is totally different. So let's change the law totally. So then they'll not go for phased manner. So that way there can be certain circumstances. So based on circumstances, you will have to answer. Yeah, Ajit is saying lockdown is in phased manner. Yes, yes. Chalo. Now let's talk about the next thing. We said with respect to timing of implementation, it can be immediate. I hope all of you understood immediate. Today, if they've made law, today itself they're going to implement it. Okay, this is immediate. Second one, prospective. What is prospective? If today they have made law, not that today itself they're going to implement. They're going to implement it from a future date. They're going to implement it from a future date, that is prospective. Third one, we said retrospective, meaning that today they have made law, but they are not going to implement it from today, but rather going to implement from a back date. Okay, it is going to be implemented from a back date. So I was taking, yeah, from past, correct. So I was taking an example, okay, about Income Tax Act. I am repeating that example for you to understand this retrospective implementation, okay. As per Income Tax Act, the current Income Tax Act, the income earned by agriculture, that is agricultural income, is exempt from tax, as of today. Okay. Now, I am taking a hypothetical situation that let's say tomorrow, okay, 1st of May, they bring an amendment in the Income Tax Act. Who brings? Obviously the government. So they bring an amendment, they propose an amendment and say that let us even tax agricultural income. And that too, that particular tax on agricultural income will not be from 1st of May 2021 or 1st of May 2020. That means they're not saying prospective, they're not saying immediate. I said 21, that is prospective. And I said 1st May 2020, that is immediate. So they're saying, no, we are not going to implement it from 2021 or 2020. We are going to implement it from 2018. So just imagine, don't you think it will be a hardship on the farmers? Don't you think it will be hardship on the agriculturists who have taken their decision on the basis of agricultural income being exempt from tax? So can they do this? No. So that's what I was telling you, that retrospective implementation, retrospective amendment cannot be done generally or every time. It has to be done very, very rarely. Only when in public interest it is required, they are supposed to implement the law retrospectively, not always. So generally, if you see, the law will be implemented from a prospective date, from a future date generally. And then I can say rarely is immediate and very rarely is retrospective. Okay, correct. So I believe now all of you have followed this 6th point, which was not understood by you earlier. 6th point clear? Please write 6th point clear. Yeah, yes, yes. Okay, yes, also I understand. Sonali is raising hand. Clear, good. Great. Akanksha is facing some problem with respect to sound. Beta, you have to check at your end because others are not facing this. So kindly check at your end. Or use earphones, headphones in case you're not using them. Or you think you're using it, then maybe remove them and try. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Now, another question, please answer. This is the procedure for enactment of law. Now, I want to understand, we said law will have changes, law will have amendments. Yes or no? Features. In features also we have discussed that. So now my question is, what is the procedure for bringing an amendment in the law, for bringing a change in the law? Okay. What is the procedure for bringing an amendment in the law, a change in the law? Come on, guys. Please tell me, what do you think? Oh, same. Very good. Yes, all of you are right. Correct, correct. So this is the same procedure which has to be followed for even bringing a change in the law. Yes, you're right. I'm happy, really happy that you guys are participating and giving the right answers. I appreciate it totally. Chalo, one more question I'll ask. Okay, then we'll move on to the next one. Okay, let me just ask one more question. We said who will make law? Parliament. Now please answer, who will propose law? Who proposes law? Who proposes law? Government. Who proposes law? Government. Yeah, respective ministry. Correct. Very good. Next. Okay. So proposal by government, that is the respective ministry, and making by the parliament. Now tell me, who is going to implement the law? Who's going to implement? Who implements the law? President implements? No. My dear friends, president doesn't implement. Yeah, very good. Dimple said society implements. Very good. And who's regulating that implementation? Who's administering that implementation? Government. Very good. Yes, you're right. So I just now summarize it. Maybe you can write also if you want. You can give the heading. Okay, you can give the heading as bodies in law. Please give the heading. Bodies in law. Yeah. All of you can stop typing and please write down in your notebook bodies in law. There are three bodies. There are three bodies. Two of them we have discussed. Number one, we said government. Number one, government. Right there, government dash proposes and implements the law. Okay, they'll implement through society. They'll implement through people, no doubt. So their job is proposal and implementation. Administration, basically, yeah. And then next body you will write parliament. Parliament. And you'll write lawmaker. Lawmaker. Okay, this is the second body. First one I am repeating, it is government. You'll write there, their function is what? Proposing and implementing, that is administration. Second one I'm saying parliament, and you'll write maker, lawmaker. Okay, now third one. Can you guess which is the third body in law? Which is the third body in law? Now you have to answer. Third body in law. No, I have told you. The government will be implementing it through whom? Through people. Okay, because ultimately it is for people. So you cannot say people. Third body. Okay, Harshal is giving the right answer. The judiciary, meaning the courts, the tribunals, the judicial and the quasi-judicial bodies. Very good, Harshal. I hope I am maybe taking the right names. In case if I'm making a mistake, because I could just see your spellings and that too, it moves fast in the chat box. So if I'm using wrong name, I'm spelling, I'm uttering the wrong name, please do let me know. Okay. Yeah. So the third body, please write down. The third body is the judicial or quasi-judicial bodies, meaning the courts. Okay. The court. In short, I'll say court. I know tribunal also is there, but it happens, no? When you go to the bandiwala, okay, let's say you go to a tiffin center and you say, I want dosa. What do you think he will give you? Only a dosa? No, he will give you dosa and chutney both. That means he has understood. When you're asking for dosa, that means you're asking for dosa, chutney. Someone will say, sir, sambar also. Okay, Baba, have sambar as well. He'll give you sambar also. Okay. So same way, please understand, when we are talking about judicial or quasi-judicial bodies, I will simply use the term court. For our discussion purpose, we'll simply use the term court. Okay. So third body. Natasha says no. What? No, beta. Priyanka? No. I don't understand. For what are you saying no? Is it for bandiwala you saying no when we say dosa is going to give you only dosa? Acha, great. Yes, that was their point. Okay. So I hope you have understood that instead of saying judicial, quasi-judicial bodies, I will say court. Correct. Third body. Acha. Now the question comes, sir, what is their function? We have talked about the function of the first two bodies which we have written. Now the function of the third body. Third body we said is judicial or quasi-judicial body. Enforcing law. No, enforcing law, as we said, is nothing but the job of government, implementation, administration. So it's not enforcement as such. But I will say giving sense to law. See, whenever there is some problem with respect to understanding of law, whenever there is a dispute, that means people are not able to follow that law or understand that law. Yeah, correct. So that is where what will happen is they will help us in understanding that law. They will make that law sensible if it looks like not sensible for people, and thereby ultimately we can say that it will resolve the disputes and see to that the law gets implemented properly. Okay, so basically implementation is done by government, but then when there is a dispute, resolving disputes, giving sense, because there can be certain vagueness, because I have told you it is written in a special way. So it's possible when it is in a special way, then there might be some misunderstanding. So who will clear that misunderstanding? Who will create sense in it? The judicial or quasi-judicial bodies. Okay. Third point I said is third body. Third body is nothing but judicial or quasi-judicial body. That is nothing but, in short, court. So what is the function of court? I said the function of the court is nothing but giving sense to law, resolving the disputes, seeing to it that law gets implemented smoothly and properly. Okay, Priyal, have you followed now? See, I might use different ways of explaining. You don't have to write different ways of explanation. You have to write just the one. So, third point, third body, which is court, dash, resolving disputes, right? Giving sense to law. That's it. That's the function. Okay. Yeah. I believe now all of you have followed procedure for enactment correctly. If yes, then I can move on to the next one. So see, this is the way. Whenever we are discussing something, first we'll discuss, okay, try to understand, and then take up some questions. When we take up questions, obviously we try to apply that understanding, and it helps us a lot, isn't it? And see, this way, as I've told you yesterday also, when we are interacting with each other, the learning will become interesting. You will not feel bored as well. And then obviously you will retain the subject and becomes interesting. That's it. Chalo. Wonderful. So now what is the next one? Arrangement of law. What is the next one? Arrangement of law. Okay. Meaning, how is law arranged? Is there any particular manner? Is there any particular procedure which they are following to arrange the law? Meaning, is there any particular manner in which they arrange the law? Correct. See now, see, I'll give you a simple example. When you take any textbook, when you take any book, not just textbook for that matter, any book you take, do you find only script in it? Do you find only script in it? No. You find it's not just that the matter or the content is there, but you find that that book has got some heading, some title, name of the book is written, maybe name of the author, right? Some details by way of preface, publisher might give a note. Then you may find that the whole book is divided into some chapters, right? Maybe some sub-chapters, maybe some topics. Inside that, maybe some heading, side heading, like that. Don't you think they have designed the book, or they made the book in a manner which is going to help us read that book properly? If we can refer that book properly, we can read that book properly, then we can understand also properly, isn't it? So same way, if law, let's say law is made, and law is not made in a particular manner, then what can happen? Chalo. Now, so if arranged properly, if anything is arranged properly, we can understand properly, we can refer properly, correct? We can refer it properly, then understand properly. And once we understand, then we can implement or follow it. If we don't understand properly, then how do you think that we'll be able to follow it properly? Isn't it? So my dear friends, kindly note That is where the law is also arranged in a particular manner. And the thing which we are going to discuss now is not written anywhere. But after reading various laws, we have come to that understanding that, okay, generally when they're making law, this is the way they're making law. Generally, they're arranging it this way, presenting it this way. And that is what I have written it for you. Okay. So now, because you don't know anything, that's where I'm directly turning the slide for you. Okay. I'm turning the slide for you directly. So you just have a look at it. Have a look at it. So I said, because this is something new, you have not read any law previously. So that's where directly this time I have placed the slide before you. Okay, directly I've placed it. So if you just see, what is the first thing which you will find in a law? You will find there is a preamble. Okay, there is a preamble. There is some introduction. There is some objective in short. Okay, that's preamble. Title, of course, will be there. Huh? So that's why I'm not mentioning title. Otherwise, when you read that act, you'll say, sir, title also there. You didn't mention. But title is going to be there. But once you get into that act, right after the title, what will you find? Preamble. Okay. Then next thing, I hope you are noting down. Okay. Please note down as and when you understand. Then next one is parts. You may find the whole of the law is grouped into some parts, or you can say divided into parts. Your wish. Right? Things are grouped into parts, or I'll say the whole of the law is divided into acts. It's your wish. Sorry, the whole of the law is divided into parts, not act. I'm sorry, my mistake. Then next one is, maybe in those parts we may have chapters. Like we may have a topic, then we have a subtopic. No, in parts. Dimple, please mute yourself, beta. Yeah. So in parts we may have chapters. It's not that every time we'll have chapters. Sometimes there might be chapters, sometimes there may not be chapters. Acha, there is another possibility that sometimes first there will be chapters, and in chapters we may have parts. So group and subgroup. Maybe the name of the group may be parts and the subgroup will be called as chapters, or vice versa. Okay, that is also possible. Next, in those chapters or parts, what will you find? Sections. Okay, what will you find? Sections. Then also you may find subsections. Okay, we may have subsections. Then we may have clauses. Okay, please understand and then write. So as and when you're able to understand the left hand side, please write that. I am not discussing the right hand side part now. So kindly concentrate. Sections are there in the chapters or parts. Then we have subsections as well. We may also have clauses. Okay, followed by what? Clauses or subclauses. Subclauses. Then we may have a proviso. We may have what? Proviso. Akanksha, don't worry. As I've told you, I will explain you everything. First, let me just take you through this particular slide. Then I will make you understand. And next thing, I will ask you questions. Okay, so have patience, beta. So clause, then subclause, and then is proviso. Once we complete the proviso, then we have sub proviso. Okay, then we have what? Sub proviso. And then followed by it will be what? An explanation. An explanation. This is how they arrange, right from preamble to explanation. But it is not necessary that every element will be there. I have written generally what can be there. But it is possible that maybe there is no parts, only chapters are there, or there is chapters but no parts. There can be sections but no subsections, no clauses. Okay, there might not be any explanation. It is possible. Okay, sir. Though you don't know what is it, at least you got to know, oh, these are the things which are mentioned in law, right? Next thing, sir, how will we identify that there is a part? How will we identify that there is a section? How will we identify that there is a proviso? So that is where, if you just have a look at the right hand side, I have written the manner in which they indicate, okay, or the manner in which they present or represent. Okay, like parts, if I talk about parts are identified by way of what? Roman number. They'll use Roman number, and Roman number, that too capital one. Sometimes it can be alphanumeric. Okay, number, that Roman number combined with alphabet also. That's where if you just observe 1, 2, 3, 3A, 3B. But remember that Roman number will be capital letter. Okay. And then also alphabets will be the capital ones. Same goes with chapters also. When they are writing the name of a number, chapters, they'll use the same manner. Okay. Same Roman numbers only. They'll write chapter 1, chapter 2, part 1, part 2. Then we have sections. Sections they'll be using number, but not Roman number. Okay, but not the Roman number, as you could see. And then again, this can be alphanumeric, as you could see, 4A, 4B. I have written, no? So same way we may find. Okay, 4A, 4B, etc. Then subsection numbers. If you just observe subsection numbers, I have written the same as section. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I can write that, but then has to be within brackets. If you just observe, section number is not in bracket, but subsection number is within bracket. I will take some examples. Okay, once I complete this, I'll take some example, and as I've told you, I'll ask you some questions, so I'll understand yours. Better then. Okay, so subsection is what? Same as section, but only thing is it will be in brackets. Subsection also can be alphanumeric, but has to be within the brackets. Then comes what? Clauses. If you just observe, clauses can be indicated by way of small alphabets within brackets. Small alphabets within brackets. Okay. A within bracket, B, right? Same way, AA. And if clauses are in, please note what I'm saying. Clauses are in small alphabets. That means they've indicated clauses by small alphabets. Then sub-clauses they will indicate by way of Roman numbers, that to small Roman numbers within brackets. Okay, if they're using small alphabets for clauses, okay, understand. Then they will use sub-clauses. Okay, they'll use for sub-clauses small Roman numbers within brackets. Again, this Roman number may be with alphabet, so that's where I've mentioned 1, 2, 3, 8. But let us say for clauses they have used Roman numbers, then they will be using small alphabets for subclauses. Okay, vice versa it works. Alphabets for clauses, then Roman numbers for subclauses. Otherwise, ulta, right? Vice versa. Then next one, proviso. Okay, I believe all of you have noted till here. Noted. I'm not saying whether fully understood or not. Noted. All of you are with me. Noted. Correct. See, if possible, don't write yes or no. Now I'm saying noted. So give the reply as noted. It would be better. So that you are not confused, I'm not confused. Okay. Yeah. Great. Wonderful. Good. Next one. Proviso. Proviso is indicated by way of provided that. Okay. Provided that. That means there will be a prefix. Okay. The proviso will begin with the words provided that. There will be no number here. There will be the words provided. So once we find provided that means we understand it's a proviso. Then we have sub proviso. Okay. Like after section we had subsection. Same way after proviso we have got sub proviso. Not always, but whenever we have. So how will we identify that there's a sub proviso? By again a prefix called as further provided that. Further provided that. Okay. Next, explanation is the same way as they indicate parts or sections. Okay, parts, chapters, how they write Roman numbers, write the bigger ones, bigger Roman number, and same way if you find, right, that 1, 2 like sections, then you may have. So they may indicate anyways. They'll write explanation 1, explanation 2, so we can easily identify. They will use the word explanation, explanation 1, like part 1, chapter 1, section 1. Like that they will indicate. Don't worry about it. Maybe clauses they may not indicate every time. Subclauses they may not indicate. So we have to understand. How? I'm there. Don't worry. I'll help you. Okay, sir. So, sir, we could understand that, okay, these are the things which are mentioned, or when they arrange the law, they probably cover these type of elements. Okay. But we have certain doubts now. And I know that. Correct? So let's understand one by one. What is preamble? First one. And I have mentioned Preamble is nothing but objective in short. What is preamble? Objective in short. Please mute yourself, beta. Karthik, you're not responding. Karthik, you never gave me any answer. I want you to participate. When you're in the session, I expect you to participate like others are doing. Okay? Anyone who's there in the session, I request, I expect, okay, expect as well as request you to participate. Okay, give reply to my questions. So let me just continue now. Preamble means what? Objective in short. Objective in short. Okay, sir, we followed. Now, next question will be, sir, where is objective in detail? If you want to know objective in detail of the provisions, is there any place where we can find? Answer is yes. You may note down. Huh? See, whenever I'm raising some questions, you find something useful, or you should try to take something useful out of it and note it down. Preamble, sir, written. But right now I am giving the meaning also, no? So right there. Preamble means what? Objective in short. Then right there. Okay, right there. What? Where is the objective in detail? So objective in detail you will find in statement of objects and reasons. Where? Statement of objects and reason. That means there is another document. Statement of objects and reasons. Okay, there's another document wherein you will find detailed objective of every provision. Okay, sir. So we understood. Preamble is in short, statement of objects and reasons will give us detailed objective of law. Because if they're making any provision, obviously they will have certain objective, right? Next one. What is parts? What is chapters? So as I've told you, that part is like nothing but a group and chapter is nothing but like a subgroup, or sometimes chapter is like a group and parts which is inside it is like a subgroup. So that's okay. Now what will be there in parts or chapters? Some content will be there. That content they will call it as sections. Like in Constitution, I said they use the word article. Article number 1, article number 2, article number 3. Okay, like that we have. Same way when we are talking about this law, okay, law, act, please understand in the law they use sections, section numbers. Where is the objective in detail given? Statement of objects and reasons. Statement of objects and reasons. There you will find detailed way. Okay. Yeah. I have mentioned as well. I've written it. Okay. I've typed it for you. Next. Sections, subsections we may have. So I was saying that the content which we have, they call it as sections. Like Constitution, they use the word article, correct. Then subsections will be there. Subsection means continuation of section, okay. But it is not necessary that every section will have subsection. Let's say the section is like going into lines and lines and paragraphs. So they'll say better we divide that section into group, or maybe we group it into some parts. So they will mention it as subsection. Now in that subsection again, there may be certain points again. So those points they will call it as clauses. So we may have sections, we may have subsections also sometimes, not always. Then we have clauses and subclauses, meaning as I was telling you, like sections may have certain points which will be called as subsection. Those points may have subpoints that will be called as clauses. And those subpoints may again have some subpoints that will be called as subclauses. So it's nothing but a way of presenting. Instead of just writing paragraphs and paragraphs, they make it into some point sort of thing, which will be called as section, then subsection, then clause, and then subclause. Then comes the question. Yeah, Natasha, correct. Proceed. I'm proceeding further. Next is what is a proviso. So please understand, proviso means an exception. Proviso brings out a special case. What is a proviso? Proviso is an exception. Okay. Proviso brings out a special case. You'll say, sir, give us an example. No, we'll understand. Okay, I'll give you a very simple example. Let us say Sumed. Okay, we'll talk about Sumed. And let's say Natasha. Natasha says, Sumed, I would talk to you provided it makes sense. What? Natasha said, Sumed, I would talk to you provided it makes sense. That means what is Natasha saying? Natasha is saying Sumed generally talks senseless. Sumed, I didn't say, huh? Natasha is saying this. And please take it as an example, don't worry. Huh? So Natasha says that Sumed, I would talk to you provided it makes sense. So generally that means Sumed doesn't make sense while talking. So Natasha is saying that in case, that means exceptionally, okay, that exceptionally if you are talking sensible, I am ready to talk to you. Understand? All of you are able to follow what is a proviso? Proviso means an exception. Proviso means which brings out a special case. Okay, so I have taken a simple example, very simple example, that she's saying that generally you talk senseless. So in case you talk sensible, that's an exceptional case, special case. So I'm ready to talk to you in that situation. Yeah, correct. Now next, sir, what is a sub proviso? Obviously, it is a further exception. It's a further exception. It's a further special point. Okay, so that's where further provided that. With the help of this prefix, provided that, further provided that, we can identify it's an exception or it's an it's a further exception. Then, sir, what is explanation? See, explanation is nothing but explaining something. Let's say in a section they have used some term. Please mute yourself, guys. Please, I request you. I will not repeat this again and again. Please mute yourself. Mayank, don't unmute yourself. It's a humble request. We're getting disturbed again and again. Okay. So guys, what did I say? Explanation. I was saying that they may use certain term in the section. Like let's say they've used the word month. Now in the explanation, they might say month means a calendar month, rather English calendar month. Okay. So Akanksha, mute yourself. And also switch off your video, Abhishek. Thank you. Huh. So I was saying that explanation plays a role, okay, when required. That means whenever they're using some term, or maybe whenever they are, yes guys, I think it is clear. Yeah. So whenever they have used certain term or whenever they're using some concept and they want to explain further for proper understanding, then they may write explanation. Okay, like month. If they've used the word month in the provision, in the section, then they may explain month means a calendar month. That too, let's say English calendar month. Like that, they will explain. They've used the word appointment. They'll use the word appointment. They might write in the explanation, appointment includes reappointment also. Amendment enactment includes amendment also. Like that, they may explain when required. Not every time, when required. Okay. Next thing, please understand one thing here. Whatever is written in law, okay, whatever is written in law is called as a provision. Is called as what? Provision. Whatever written in law, whether it is a section, whether it is a subsection, clause, subclause, whatever. In short, we say what? Provision. Provision. Anything written in law is called as a provision. I'm repeating once again. Please note down. Okay, be attentive. Anything written in law is called as a provision. Okay. Yeah. So that's where if you see my note now, okay, I've written some note below. All provisos are provisions, but all provisions are not necessarily provisos. All provisos are provisions, right? Because everything written in law is a provision. But all provisions are not provisos. How can we say that law will have only provisos? Only exceptions they'll have? No, right? So all provisions are not necessarily provisos or are not provisions. Did you follow this much? If you have followed till here, I'll ask some questions to you. Come on, guys. Please answer followed. See, proviso is nothing but an exception. Exception. Okay, exception. Special case. So that's where I've taken an example also. Natasha says to Sumed that I would talk to you provided it makes sense. Provided it makes sense. That means Sumed doesn't talk sensibly. So that's why she's highlighting. If you don't, I mean, if you talk sensibly, then I will speak to you. So that's a special case. Okay. Yeah. Now, guys, I'll ask you certain questions. Yeah, all of you are able to follow. I could see that. Great. Now answer my questions. First question is, when do you think there is a possibility that they will use explanation? Come on, answer. If you've understood, you can answer. Very easy question I'm asking you. When do you think that they will be using explanation? They'll be giving explanation. Yeah, correct. Something complex, something requires some clarification. Correct. You are absolutely right. Yes. Next question. Okay, next question. Do you think always after sections there will be subsections? Always after subsection there will be clauses? Say yes or no. Very good. Yes, you're right. No, sir. It is not necessary that always will have subsections, always will have clauses. No. Sections, yes, we'll have, but not compulsory that we'll have subsections, subclauses, clauses every time. It's not a compulsion. Good. Next thing. Let me write something now and maybe ask. So, a moment, guys. I hope you're able to see the white screen. Yes, okay. So now, see, I'm writing something here. Please just have a look at it. So I've written something. Can you now read it out? And obviously read it out in the sense you'll have to type in your chat box. How do you think we'll read it? Can you guess? Yeah, I'll wait for your answer. Don't worry. Sumed, it can't be chapter beta. I've already written SEC. Namit says section 4, subsection 1, clause A, subclause 4. Very, very good. You're absolutely correct, Namit. Very good. Yes, guys. All others can stop now. So if you just observe here, I have written section, SEC. That means section. So obviously I'm talking about section 4. You can't say chapter. And then after section, we said there will be what? Subsection. So this is subsection 1. Then there will be the clause. Yeah, correct. So clause A. And after clause, we may have subclause 4. This is the way we can read. Yeah, most of you now are giving the right answer. Okay, great. Let me ask you one more. Okay. Yes. Now, how will you read this? Yes, guys, tell me, how will you read this? Naman, you've missed something, beta. Namit, you're right. Arshini, you're also right. Correct. See, this is read as section 5A, subsection 1. Okay, not 5. It's section 5A, subsection 1. Okay. Yeah. Now my next question. All of you followed this. I'm going to the next question now. See, maybe in an act, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. Let us say 100 sections. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 like that. How many sections are there? Let's say 100 are there. Now the question is, if they want to bring some amendment, okay, let's say they're bringing some amendment and they are numbering it as 5A. Is there any reason behind that? See, there was a possibility that they number it as 101. Already 100 sections are there. Now when they're bringing some amendment, then they could have numbered it as 101. No. Why is it that they are numbering it as 5A? Amendment in 5. No. So let me tell you. See, there is a possibility that they want to bring in something after 5 but before 6. They want to add something in between, which they didn't wanted earlier, or earlier that was not required. So now when they know they didn't require earlier but require now and have to add, after 5 it has to be added because it is having some connection with that particular chapter or with that particular section. So it can't be numbered as 101. It has to be after 5 and before 6. So what will they do? Obviously in between they will insert a section called as 5A. Okay, let's say in future they want to insert something more which is connected to 5A and has to be before 6. Then they might bring another section called as what? 5B. Okay, this is 5B. Huh? Understand? So I repeat again. When they want to bring in something between 5 and 6, okay, between 5 and 6, then they will insert it by way of 5A, 5B, like that. Now, why do they want to insert in between 5 and 6? As I've told you, because it might be connected to that chapter, connected to that particular section 5. That's where it has to be after 5 only. And hence, this type of section numbering also possible. Please understand, Sahil, this is not subsection. How will I write section 5? This way. Subsection 1 this way. And if I am writing clause, it is within brackets. Okay. So when we are talking about section numbers, I'm repeating 1, 2, 3, 4. This is anyways can be used. Same way I'm saying 5A, 5B, 5C. Okay. This is all possible. This is all possible. 5A, 5B, 5C. This way also they can write. Okay. This is not to be kept in bracket. Please understand. This is not to be in bracket. Okay. Now let me talk about one more thing. 6 and 6A. Do you think are two different sections or one and the same? Are they different? People are saying same. No, just now I've explained you. 5A is different. No, I said after 5 we wanted 6. But in between, let's say later on they want something between 5 and 6, 5A. So 5A is different from 5. So same way 6A is different from 6. Okay, 6A is different from 6. Okay, next. What is this? What is this? Please answer. Rohan says clause A. Beta, clause A of what? Section 6 clause A. Please mute yourself. Dimple, mute yourself, beta. It's quite disturbing. You're not following my instruction. Yeah, section 6 clause A. See, if I'm writing this way without brackets, then it is section 6A. Section 6A. But when I'm writing within brackets and that too small, you can understand this is clause A. Okay? Yeah. I'll go back and ask you some more questions. Okay? In this slide only, I'm asking some question. What is my question? Tell me, is section number unique? Next question, huh? Next question. Is section number unique? Acha, what do I mean by this? If someone has not understood this, how many times will you find section number 2 in a single act? Let's say we are going to read Indian Contract Act. How many times you'll find section number 2 in Indian Contract Act? One time, right? Only one time, isn't it? So that means it is unique. That means it is unique. Same way, if I ask, how many times will you find section number 19A? 19A. I'm not talking about 19. I'm talking about 19A. Section 19A. Yes, only once. That means the section is unique. Section numbers are always unique. Okay. Coming to subsection numbers. What do you think? How many times will you find subsection 1A? How many times will you find subsection 1A? Oh, sorry guys, but you're wrong this time. This is not the right answer. See, subsection 1A. Sumedh is giving the right answer. Mayank also is given the right. See, subsection number you may find, okay, the same subsection number 1A you may find multiple times. Subsection 1A might be there with section 1, might be there with section 2, might be there with section 3, might be there with section 4. Like that, it can be there with every section. Okay, so please understand, section number is unique, but subsection number is not unique. It might be there multiple times. And if I give you a simple example, Rohan Surana. Okay, let's take this example. Rohan Surana. Now tell me, how many people or how many members in his family are Surana? At his home, how many Suranas are there? Obviously all. His father is also Surana, mother is also Surana, right? Maybe he has a brother, he is Surana, correct? But then now tell me, how many in his family, how many at his home are Rohan? Let's say there are two brothers, I said, okay? Do you think his brother name is also Rohan? Just because his parents love this name, Rohan. Is it that every son they'll name as Rohan, right? Both the sons they will name as Rohan? No. So Rohan is like section number and Surana is like subsection number. Subsection number, never unique. It can be there with every section, but section number is always unique. Followed it? Okay, great. Then next. So can I say now, this alphanumeric parts, alphanumeric chapters, alphanumeric sections, alphanumeric subsections are amendments? Because originally I said 1 to 100. I took that example. 1, 2, 3, 4, like that till 100 we've got sections. But in between, later on, they inserted 4A, 4B. So can I say those are amendments? Yes, you're right. Those are amendments. So anytime, mark my words, anytime when you find part 3A, part 3B, same way chapter 3A, 3B, or 4A, 4B, or section 4A, 4B, 5A, 5C, 5B, subsections 1A and all, this shows that those are amendments. For sure they are amendments. Alphanumeric, I'm repeating, alphanumeric, when you find, that shows it is amendment. That means originally it was not there, but later on they have inserted it. Okay, wonderful. Next, do you think we will have explanation after sub proviso? Answer my question quickly. Last 2-3 minutes to end the session. Please answer. Do you think explanation is there after sub proviso? After, right? After. If you say after. Okay, some of you have written no. You are absolutely right. See, it is not necessary. Just because I have put the number as 10 doesn't mean after 9, 10, so after sub proviso there is explanation. No, guys. Explanation can be there in a section. Explanation can be there only with a subsection. Explanation can be there only for a subclause. It is possible that explanation can be there with anything. It is not necessary that explanation will be there only after sub proviso. Okay, so when we see the act, we will understand that also. Okay. Now, if you have any questions still here, please ask. Otherwise, we have to end this session today. I know probably you will not like it because you were into the flow and I'm stopping you, but somewhere all good things have to come to an end, and we should have something for tomorrow as well, isn't it? No doubt, sir. Great. Acha. In case you have doubts, then what will you do? Yeah, when we meet next time, you can ask those doubts. Once I complete the revision, you can raise your doubt. We can clear it. And as I've told you, we'll be maybe having a separate Telegram group, subject specific Telegram group, wherein you can raise your doubts. As of now, we're not creating it because once these live sessions, free live sessions gets over, then once you get registered, we'll take you in that Telegram group and you can ask your doubts. As of now, if you have certain doubts, you can always ask me tomorrow after doing the revision. Pooja is asking, means can the clause be before section? Clause be before section? I never said clause be before the section. I said explanation can be there with respect to anything. Explanation can be there with respect to title of chapter also. Explanation can be there with section also. I never said clause is before the section. Okay, right. So anything, any doubt there, you can ask me in the next session. Now just mention, have you enjoyed today's class? Are you enjoying the subject? Please answer, then we'll say goodbye. Right, enjoyed. If you are enjoying, write enjoyed. Don't say yes, sir, please. Thank you. As I've told you yesterday also, if you're not enjoying, then my job is to work on and then improve myself and make you enjoy the subject. Yes, so great. Thank you so much. Thank you, beta. Thank you, all of you. So God bless you all, and let's see tomorrow, okay, or whenever our next session is scheduled, we'll meet then and continue from here. Okay, thank you again. Thank you all. God bless you. Enjoy your session. Okay, after half an hour, you'll have your next session. Bye-bye.